lot of passion for what you're doing. This rings true because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, and if you're not having fun doing it, you're gonna give up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Jon's Entitled Podcast, a partner of MoshPitNation.com. This week's guest is Jayden Panesso, not Joey Panesso, like you will hear me say in the interview. And someone's name who I don't fuck up is Mr. Daniel Terry. How are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing great, man. I am covered in mosquito bites, and I'm pretty sure I smell pumpkin spice in the air. So 'tis the season.
I bought a lot of pumpkin spice things today, and I don't give a fuck. I love pumpkin spice, so I even have a pumpkin spice tattoo. So fuck you guys.
Hey, man, whatever gets the job done for you.
Yep, it's my favorite time of year. Yeah, you know, I just want to say it's been a very interesting week for me. As of the time you guys are hearing this, my birthday has already come and passed. It was this past week on the 20th. And I did a whole fuckload of nothing. I was in bed by 9:30 because I had been hustling like a motherfucker to pay off stuff that we were doing for Louder Than Life Fest. Because let me tell you, trying to get a hotel in the prime area of where a festival is going on, not cheap.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of weird. Back when I used to go to the Cornerstone Festival in Illinois, it made so much more sense. You just camped there. You
Right.
camped at the festival. Like, for these giant fests, it almost seems like that's the way they should all go.
Well, apparently my wife was looking for someone to sell their camping spot, and I was like, fuck that, I don't want to do that. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I guess for like $130 for a whole weekend, it would be exponentially easier just to do that, because then you're like, all right, going to my campsite, and I'm already there.
Yeah.
But then it's just the realization that you're probably going to be stepping and sleeping near other people's piss and shit, and you don't know who you're going to end up next to. At least like at a hotel, there's a bed, because I don't like sleeping on the ground, because I'm old, and I like to wake up when I want to wake up, and I like having air conditioning, and yeah, I'm just a curmudgeon-y old dude who needs the things he needs. And you know what? That's okay, because at 34, I fucking earned the right to do that.
Totally fine, man. Totally fine. Like, I keep saying, oh, yeah, you should just camp. But I probably haven't done that in, like, the better part of a decade, you know? Ever since that festival went away, it was, like, one of the only ones I went to because it was within driving distance. But that was a whole week. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be a lot more hardcore than I am now. It just kind of blows my mind that it's... First of all, that it's been that long, and that how big of a baby I would be if I actually went down there and was sleeping in a tent, even for only 2 days. Like, the next morning, I'd be like, let's just leave. I mean, we interviewed everybody we want to interview, right?
Yeah. I also want to give a shout-out for all the other press outlets that picked up on the Greg from Audiotopsy interview. We put out an episode like a day or so after a few places picked up on it, but I will definitely say... way more places picked up on it after we dropped the Trey Williams episode from Dying Fetus.
Yeah. I mean, that was, yeah, that went pretty nuts. Like just seeing it everywhere, and then as with everything, I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. We have a special shout out to a media outlet that decided to cover our story, and not actually give us any credit for having that story.
That's right. There was a nice radio station out of Florida. Not going to give them any shout out or anything. They did. I will say, after I made a little bit of a fuss about it, which I was on the fence about even doing, but you know what? Fuck it. It's like if places like Blabbermouth and Loudwire and all these other people can either at least credit me or cite the original source as of where they got all their information, which still has me credited, then I'm sorry. Some little bumfuck radio station in Florida or wherever it is can do the same. And so I kind of raised a little bit of a stink. I posted something on on Facebook. I shared it on my own socials. And special shout out for my fellow Pumpkin Spice Oktoberfest lover, Mr. Adam Morgan of Hopesball, left a comment on the thing going like, oh, what podcast was this that it came from? So he may or may not listen to this, but I sent him a text and a Facebook message and was like, hey, thanks for doing that. So it's nice to know when Hopesball's got your back. Things are good.
Oh, yeah, man. You really can't ask for a better dude than Adam Morgan to come in there and just, lay it all out on your behalf. It was probably one of the funniest, like, most sarcastically written comments. It was sort of like, oh, what podcast?
The thing that killed me, though, in the quote-unquote write-up, if you can even call it that, is it literally just said that Greg had done, quote-unquote, an interview on a podcast. Yep. And it's like, so you have no problem tagging Mudvayne, you have no problem tagging Audiotopsy, you have no problem crediting the photo that you used from whoever did that photo, but you can't do 2 more seconds worth of research, and at least you don't even have to tag me or like do that thing where like you can click on my name and it takes you to my Facebook page or the podcast itself. But it was just kind of fucked up, like, and then so enough people made a stink, and then I got a message from the guy who quote unquote wrote that. And he just goes, "Oh, well, we found it on this site," which I couldn't even find that page, like that.
Yeah, I didn't even know what he was talking about.
I didn't either.
But it was so strongly worded, like his tone was just a little too evident. Oh, we found it on this, and I changed it. Okay,
yeah,
like that's how it came across.
Yeah. So,
douche.
It's one of those things, like, I guess I shouldn't have let it bother me, especially on my birthday. It happened on my birthday. But there I am, sitting on a nice deck, eating dinner on a lake, and I see this fucking bullshit. And you know what? I was like, I'm allowed to have one little stupid pity party thing on my birthday that I get upset about.
It's your party, man. You can cry if you want to.
And I did. I fucking cried all in my over spilt milk, all of that shit. But it got rectified, so it kind of makes me think that, speaking up for myself or on behalf of both of us was the right thing to do. Because, if you just let that go by, I think that just sets the precedence that, that you don't care, that it doesn't mean much to you. And I definitely think that that's a really good segue to talk about the chat that we're bringing you this week with Jayden Panesso of Sylar. Because that's a band who, over their last record, Help, it's a band that doesn't give a fuck anymore about pleasing anyone other than themselves. And that was a nice thing in talking with Jayden is I think you get a real sense of that throughout the whole conversation. Is just, as I said in the interview, being unapologetically them. They started off kind of being one of the, I don't know if generic is the term I want to use, but just kind of being another kind of deathcore-y kind of band. Didn't help that on the first record they have even Frankie Palmieri from Amur on there, but I mean, you look at a band like Amur, who's even on their last record taking steps to be new and inventive with what they do. And I think in this day and age, in the heavier music realm, if you're not doing that, then you're gonna get left behind. Not to use the thing for my intro music, but it's good.
I think when a lot of these bands came out, like Sylar is a great example. It's almost like they had to put out To Whom It May Concern to get their foot in the door with a certain scene before that scene had really taken off and changed. I think, back in like 2013, 2014, all you could do is be like, no, it's fine, dude. We're totally a hardcore band.
Right.
Totally. we're doing this electronic thing a little bit here too, but, totally a hardcore band. And then, you sell some records, you sell some t-shirts, you get a fan base established. I'm saying that like that's really easy. It's not. But, they get their foot in their door. And now it's kind of like, okay, guys, now we're going to really start bringing to the table what we're all about. And, I think, like, normally if I was reviewing their discography, I would say To Whom It May Concern, like, I'd be like, oh, this is such a great record. This is amazing. This is amazing. But Help is, like, literally, like, 3 times as good as that record.
Totally. Better songwriting.
Way better songwriting. Like, so much more focus. Like, I mean, and I've listened to the 3 new tracks, and, I mean, I'm totally on board. with the changes. At no point, this is not like some legacy band that has been around for like 30 years and played a certain style for 28 of those years and is now suddenly going, J-pop or something.
Right.
It's not like there's nothing cheap about the transition. And even like what you said, John, during the interview, there were breadcrumbs the entire pathway to where they are now. It should not be any kind of surprise.
No, not at all.
In the direction that they went in. Because, I mean, I don't think at any point I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
To have To Whom It May Concern and then Help, transitioning from that, into their new record, it's like, I don't know, man, all the pieces are there. I don't understand. Like, I didn't even think anybody was upset. But apparently someone's upset because, there's music out there and people are upset about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a really fun chat, and I think as Dan said when I sent him the interview itself, it's a long one. I'm not editing anything other than a little bit of the background noise from, again, being at a venue, but I think unlike the last couple that I've done at the venues, I think this is the best sounding one. You can hear everything pretty well, like as far as Jayden and I talking, without hearing a ton of background noise.
Yeah, it definitely sounded better than the Phil interview, for sure. But, I mean, didn't you say you brought some serious equipment with you this time?
I brought what I currently am using right now, which is, my little mixer through my USB mixer through an actual microphone hooked up to my laptop. So I was kind of able to control things. I was able to see when things were spiking a little more, as opposed to having, a mobile recorder where you're kind of at the mercy of whatever it picks up.
Yeah, well, and it helps having directional mics too. When Joe and I were down at Rockin' Pod with discography discussion, using those directional mics really helped cut down on a lot of the background noise. If you listen to some of the other podcasts from around there, from that event, that place was so much louder than you would think listening to some of those podcasts.
Yeah,
and it's really all about what kind of microphone you use, like 100%.
Yeah, and so this is a really long chat. I sat down with Jayden for about just shy of an hour, so I'm going to cut this down, and we're going to get into my chat with Jayden from Sylar. Talk to you in the outro. So I have the pleasure of talking to Jayden Panesso from Sylar. Jayden, I'm sorry. Goddamn. I was looking at... My bad. God damn it. When you prepare, but you just talked to Joey Gonzalez from Philip H. Anselmo's and the Illegals. Jayden Panesso. Sorry for that. You guys just got done playing your set here in Grand Rapids, Michigan on the first date of the Disease Tour. You got a new record getting ready to come out on October 5th via Hopeless Records called Seasons.
Yeah.
You've dropped 3 singles from that. You just most recently dropped Shook. Yesterday, in fact. And I really wanted to know, how fucking fun was it recording Shook? Because you know what? When I listened to that song, and I've listened to it a shitload today, I feel like the energy and the vibe of that recording was just so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of I don't know, I feel like we have all sorts of moods within the record, but that one song specific, that was like our song for us to show, I guess, or more lighter, I don't know, our lighter, more fun side to us. It was just one of those songs where we were just like, dude, fuck the rules, fuck everything, let's just write a song that's aggressive, that's fun, and let's just let everyone know how we feel about a certain situation. And that's why Shook is fun, man.
I think that's something that's kind of been lost in the realm of putting out music lately. I feel like people don't have fun recording, and that's the whole reason a lot of us got into music, got into being in a band.
Right. Well, dude, honestly, even though I do agree with you, for the most part I do, and I do agree with you because of the scene we're in.
Okay.
but not in general, because people are having fun, dude. You go to hip hop, people are having fun. You go to Smash music, people are having fun.
I feel like hip hop shows are becoming the new hardcore shows, though.
Yeah, but honestly, our fucking scene is just like, our scene needs to wake the fuck up and get the fuck out of like whatever hole they're stuck in. Like, dude, why do you want every band to play it safe? Why do you want to hear the same record 10 years in a fucking row? Get out of it. Get out of it. It's 2018. Why do you still want to hear the same record? Why are you still creating the same record? Honestly, it's annoying. It's frustrating. And then when we take an initiative to do something different, people get upset about it because it's like, it's not what they're used to hearing. But to me, it's just like, dude, like, man, it's like, we have so many tools in our hands. We can actually, as like regular humans, record music. Yeah. 20 to 30 years ago, a regular human being, your average human being, wouldn't be able to do the things that we're able to do now, 30 years later.
Yeah.
Why are we not having fun now that it's more accessible to us?
You know what?
You know what I mean? Like,
No,
that's something that irks me big time.
So, you know what? I feel like you and I are going to be able to talk very easily.
Cool.
I'm going to kind of toss my notes to the side.
Awesome.
Just have a
Let's do that.
conversation with
Yeah.
you. So, it's very funny you say that because I went through the discography rundown today of listening to everything from start to where you are now currently with the 3 tracks. If I would have been on my A game, I would have asked your publicist for the new record so I could really talk about the new record a little bit more in depth because I fucking hate asking general questions about something like that. But I will say this. You know, you talk about your scene not really kind of giving it a go, like kind of really going for it. And the thing that interested me in really listening to where you started to where you currently are and where you're about to be in a month with this new record, seemingly a lot of fans are man, I'm just not feeling this new Sylar record. I'm not feeling this song. Oh, I wish they would go back to where they were. And to me, it's like when you really put everything back to back to back to back, there's little breadcrumbs leading you to where you were going. And the thing to me is, it's like when you get to Help, yes, that's the more obvious, bigger transition in the band's sound. But like I said, there's breadcrumbs all along.
All over,
like,
yeah.
Here's a little bit of melody. Here's a little bit of like the R&B influence of like, you know, your other vocalists coming through. Here's things that we've been doing, and we're trying to just kind of figure out how it applies to us as a band. And then Help comes out, and it's almost like, surprise, motherfuckers! We figured this out. We figured out what Sylar is to us and where we wanted to take it. So with a whole fucking record already done, and then now, you know, the 3 songs continuing where you started.
Right.
I don't understand why fans hear a song like Shook or hear a song, you know, like the 2 other songs that are out, and they're just like, I don't get it. I don't know where this came from. And it's like, where the fuck were you, like,
dude,
2 years ago? How do you not get it?
This is the thing. It's like, I want to say that same shit where I'm just like, dude, what is going on? Like, why do you guys not get it? But at the same time, I mean, like, I know what I was like as a younger kid. I would hear 10 seconds of a song and be like, this shit is trash. You know what I mean? Like, or this shit sucks or something. As a younger kid.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I have a better mentality with it. So I don't know if that's it, or I don't know, man. It's just like, my thing is like, I don't know if fans thought we were just gonna write like a Hell Part 2. It's just like no one wants to do that. You know what I mean? And it's just like, dude, this is what it comes down to. I'm gonna be as real as I possibly fucking can be.
Please.
Right now, as we're releasing songs and we have people that love them, because we do, there's tons of people that love them. But there's also a lot of other people dropping the lines of like, oh, it's not the same. Oh, you guys are screaming less, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of crazy that it puts me back in this situation where, like, honestly, even when, like, Linkin Park dropped their new shit, where we were all so pissed about it, and then, like, Chester like, lashed out some comments before he went at people, like, crying about Hyper Theory, and I didn't even agree with it, you know? But now I understand. You know what sucks, man? It's crazy when I read some of these comments about, like, some of the songs and stuff, because it's crazy because, like, during the whole recording process, we were going through such a crazy time as a band. We were in the middle of a tour. We, like, finished 2 tours back to back and went straight into the record. My girl was pregnant during the entire time, so, like,
I feel like that comes across on some of the
stuff. And that's
like,
what I wrote about.
Okay.
But I left home for 2 months to do that record, and then when you, like, it does kind of sting a little bit when you read those comments and you're just like, damn, everything I've sacrificed just to make this record, and then someone just, like, we'll make that comment over like some, I don't know, not screaming being involved.
Right.
It just kind of makes you wonder. But at the same time, it's just like, dude, I don't know. I do understand what it's like to fall in love with a record, and where you're like, I don't know, because when I fell in love with Hybrid Theory, for instance, Diora, it's just like, I thought those were like the perfect records, you know, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So it's just like, I'm not even mad at fans. I know what it's like. My thing at this point, I'm not trying to let, because dude, even though people are dropping those kind of comments, for every one comment that someone like that drops, it's like 5 people that actually love the songs. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like it's going downhill, but to me, it's just like, you know what? Fuck it. I understand the feeling right now. My main thing is I want people to fully listen to the whole record. I want people to get the vibe from song 1 to the last song and understand where we're going with it, you know?
So, 2 kind of questions on that. You know, the interesting thing about, I tip, as a almost 34-year-old person, I typically have a problem with how much of a record you're getting now, because I'm like, dude, it was one fucking jam. And if you weren't sold on that, then the record wasn't for you. And if it was a banger, you found out about it later, like, oh, you fucked up and didn't buy this.
Right.
So I'm kind of having to learn to grow to this new thing where you're putting out 3, 4, 5 songs off of a record. But I will say, like, today was, and this is no bullshit, because like you won't go back and listen to my podcast, but I'm going to say, if you go back and listen to my podcast and I talk to people who have records coming out, I kind of shit on the fact that people give too much away. Like, I'm like, dude, you're oversaturating this shit. That's a problem with the music industry. I feel like we're oversaturated.
I can almost agree with that.
So today was the first time listening to the 3 tracks you've got out where I'm like, fucking glad that they've kind of oversaturated and put out a lot of fucking tracks, because like I feel like I really am legitimately stoked on this new fucking record, and I got a month to go. And yes, I could have been that asshole who was like, can you send me the new record now? And I probably could have gotten it.
Right.
But like,
sure.
Now I'm really excited to wait and get it and have that thing that I used to get when I would, you know, when Best Buy CDs were $9.99 opening week, and you rip open the package and look at the artwork and put it in, and you're just lost in the art and the everything that the band wanted you to experience. It's all laid out before you. Everything that they talked about, all the interviews you listened to or read or any of that shit comes to fruition in front of you, audio, visually, just the whole experience. And that's why I love vinyl being a thing now, because like it brings everything to a way bigger.
Isn't
like,
that
it's
wild
so big.
that came back?
Yes,
isn't it awesome?
Yes, and no. I love it.
I love it personally.
But like I can understand why some people like cassettes. I don't understand, because like you listen to a cassette, you fuck up the audio.
You won't get the same quality.
No.
You know what I mean? Ever.
But all that aside, something that I was thinking about today as I was listening to the new stuff, listening to the old stuff, is, I'm listening to these new songs and I feel like, very unapologetically, you guys have been at the very unapologetic about loving nu metal, and you have been, and you've referenced Linkin Park a handful of times, and being an almost 34-year-old, the thing that I loved about nu metal was, and I was just literally talking about this at the bar with a friend of mine that just came from Oregon that surprised me that he's here, but we were talking about how nu metal was so wide casting of a net. It incorporated industrial, metal, tech metal. Like it was so wide casting, and then even went into like what would become like post-hardcore and all this kind of shit. But the thing is it was so unapologetically, everyone was so unafraid to be themselves and just go for it, that I feel like you guys are a shining example of that. Like where you're like, yeah, we started here and we can still be that we are still those people, but we have access to be so much more.
Hell yeah.
It's this thing where like you guys and like a handful of other bands like have me like really like 100th, even though they're never gonna play the old shit supposedly anymore. The fact that they are what they are now, I'm excited because I love that Rare record. It was really fucking good. And to me, it's like, if you're gonna put out music that's unapologetically who you want to be, that's more exciting than forcing you to be something you don't want to be anymore.
Dude, fuck yeah, man. That's awesome. I love that statement, because honestly, I do feel like my band is like that, and it's not on some like, dude, honestly, like, we're not out here trying to like push an agenda on anybody or try to like,
right.
We're literally just writing music that we legit enjoy. At the end of that, man, it's just like,
it comes across.
Yeah, thank you, man. And it's like, a massive reason why we wrote that song titled All or Nothing is because it's that. It's like we're giving it our all. We're literally with this record giving people a taste of what we're really into. You know, it's what we're into currently. You know, we've grown a lot as a band, and yeah, man, it's just like, dude, the first music that came into my life was hip hop. You know, I'm from Queens. You know, like I didn't have anyone showing me rock. You know what I mean? Like my family all listen to hip hop. Like, no, dude, I'm the first musician in my family. You know what I'm saying? Like when I picked up a guitar, it was just such like it was such a weird thing for my family that someone in the family was picking up an instrument. You know, it was like a funny thing. Now that I'm doing it, it's just like people get it, but dude, it's like we all come from so many different backgrounds, and I feel like this is the first time on a record where we actually get to project, actually show off what we're into and the kind of stuff we vibed into to make these songs. You know what I mean? It's so, I don't know, man. At the end of the day, it's just like these songs are all very special because we're very happy with them. You know what I mean? We sent out a message through each song, and we were able to write that song exactly how we wanted to. We never thought safe. Not once during this record did we go into a song and we were like, yeah, this is a safe option. Yeah, you know what? Those kids will like it. No, man, we wrote something real, and I'm going to go out on them and say that that's something that this scene massively lacks. So many bands are afraid to beat them. And you know what? We're not.
Right.
And that's just what it is, you know? And obviously we appreciate all the people that love us and stick with us, and there's many people that don't appreciate that. And you know what? It's okay, because at the end of the day, just like we have freedom to write the music we want to, you have the freedom to listen to whatever the hell you want, right?
Yeah, totally.
So it's cool, but just know that whether you like our music or not, we feel very happy and comfortable with it, and it's just a good feeling. You know what I'm saying? As an artist, to put out what you want to put out.
So, you know, something being an actual fan of a lot of music and paying attention to like producers and so on and so forth, you know, like I said earlier, being a fan of nu metal when it first came out, I paid attention like, oh, Ross Robinson's doing records I love, Roadrunner's putting out shit I love, like paying attention to those like little things, like even to the point of being like, oh, Monty Connor's like a great A&R dude, like he finds all my favorite bands. Like,
oh, dude, you were in it.
Oh yeah. But I think like that's the thing is like even if you go back to the early to mid 90s, like with the death metal scene, like Morrisound and the different labels that you were into, like it was more of an inclusive scene that we were a part of that brought us in. But something I don't think a lot of people think of now, and something I was kind of wondering if it's kind of brought the ability to be who you wanted to be out, is a producer. Because the thing I noticed from the first two records to Help is production-wise, it just sounds so good. Like there's emphasis on, okay, so like on a good case, and forgive me because like I have my phone in my pocket when I'm at work,
man.
So
No worries.
Something Soul
Addiction. Soul Addiction.
Okay, yes. So Soul Addiction, going into like in the chorus, the fact that you can hear the octave chords being played, like where it's like that, like huge, like just the hit of the chord.
Yeah.
To me, a producer knows that that's gonna really fucking sell that chorus, that part, that thing, and on a good set of headphones, like it just makes everything more valuable.
I love that you notice those things, you know? And it's like, dude, this is a little bit off the subject, but like, dude, I honestly, man, one of the reasons why I fell in love with like the generation and the era of nu metal was just not just the music. There was so much going through that. It's just like the fact that people really expressed themselves however they wanted, dude. You had foreign kids making like nu metal music that was hitting like the charts in America. Like think about bands like El Nino, you know what I mean? Like making songs in Spanish and shit, and people still fucked with it. You know what I mean? It was just like it was so massive. And also think about how together metal was, regardless of like the metalheads on the side that really hated nu metal, because to this day.
But I mean, look at the tour, like the Family Values that brought everything all together.
But something that we lack now as a metal scene is just that at the time it's just like nu metal wasn't just a band or three bands. It was a fucking movement.
Yeah.
And everyone was coming up with each other.
Yeah.
And that's something that we don't see now, and it's lacking it, and it's a bummer. We don't see it that much anymore, you know. And to me, it was just something real great. It wasn't only that, but just like what you mentioned earlier, the freedom of creating a persona through your music, man. That shit is priceless. Regardless of a record deal, regardless of anything, that shit is priceless. And I'm not saying it's like non-existent now, but it is something that we lack more. You know, the unity is not as much as I used to feel it when I was like a fan. You know what I mean? It's just like I would listen to certain bands and then like I would just understand everything that was going on. I don't know. It's just different times. I understand what's going on. You know what I mean? It's just like.
Well, I think it's the difference between being a fan of something and experiencing it from like my perspective to now being a part of it.
Yeah.
And like that's the weird part where I'm in, where it's like, and this sounds like I'm fucking breaking my own arm, patting myself on the back, but it's like I feel like, you know, I notice things more than I think the average person does.
Right.
But then I get the validation talking to people where they're like, oh my God, you noticed this. And it's like, yeah, well, didn't everybody? And they're like, no, not everyone notices this shit.
But isn't it funny how you're saying that, but that almost connects to like making music, where like people have to like write safe music as opposed to just like going with it, right?
I guess.
And then they like, because there's times where like we'll show someone a song and then like someone else in another band will be like, damn dude, that's sick. I've thought about writing a song like this, but like, you know what I mean? So it just kind of connects. It's a weird thing. I don't know. I guess I see it differently. It's absolutely different being on both spectrums. You know what I mean? Especially because like.
Well, here's a question for you then.
Okay.
Have you gone back and listened to something where now on your side of things, like where you've kind of turned a corner with where your band's at, where you're just like, oh fuck, I get this now. I get what this band was doing now.
All the time. One thing I've pushed myself to do in the past, like honestly, past weeks.
Okay.
So, honestly, to like a couple months ago, I was a person that like if I heard a song, I would tell you off the first listen if I hated it or loved it. But then I found myself in situations where most of the songs I would tell people I hated, after a couple listens, I'm just like, damn, this is pretty sick. I like it. So now I've learned big time to just, instead of judging a song immediately, just to sit with it and then see how it really like sits on me.
Yeah.
But I just think, man, it goes with everything, man. We're just all growing up and we're just learning to be a little bit less, I guess, like judgmental. You know what I mean? And it's also, to play devil's advocate, I am also in a band, so I am going to get judged.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm easier on other things, knowing that I might get that treatment right back. You know what I mean? Because it's like, dude, it's so easy to hear a song and be like, dude, that shit's awesome, or, hey, that shit sucks. But, dude, being an artist and reading that your song sucks, even after, dude, I'm telling you, at least for me, 1 million people can tell me my song is awesome.
But you're gonna
But then
focus
that
on
one person that
yeah.
tells me it sucks, it hurts me, dude.
Dude, I can tell you some comments I've gotten doing this podcast where I'm just like, if I were a band, I don't know what the fuck I'd do, because like someone's like, this kid talks too much, and then someone's like, well, you didn't talk at all. Were you even there for the interview? And it's like, so I talk too much, or I don't talk enough. So what's the happy medium of incorporating me into this thing?
This is the beauty of growing up as an artist, is that one thing I have learned. And it's funny to say that I have learned because I'm still learning it, because sometimes it doesn't sit hard enough. But the fact of the matter is, dude, when you're creating stuff, I'm not saying you have to get it right away. You will get it eventually. But the fact of the matter is, you're not going to please everybody.
No.
You're not.
No.
You know what I mean? And that's a massive misconception that you come in with as an artist, because obviously, man, you want to create your best art. You want to drop something and shock everybody, you know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is, man, not everyone's going to like it. And I feel like once you come into peace with those things, and once you understand that, it's a lot easier to do what we do. Because, man, I'm telling you, man, it's hard. It's hard for me. I could hear a ton of positive comments, but yet I'll sit there and I'll concentrate on that one bad one. And I'm trying my best, man. I'm trying my best to, like, get rid of that. But, dude, it's natural. It's natural because we're all giving it our everything. With your blog, you're not half-assing this, correct?
No.
I mean, you just drove from home. You're here in our green room conducting an interview. You're not just doing it for the fuck of it.
On a piece of paper.
There you go, and here we are. So when you do put your everything into something, and not everyone likes it, that shit is gonna strike you a certain way. But as long as you understand that you're just not gonna please everybody, I think that just puts a better peace of mind.
It definitely is still hard though, because like sometimes sometimes the hard part is not to clap back at some motherfucker and be like, oh, I'll wait for your interview then with this person. Oh, you don't have a podcast? You don't have the vehicle to do this? Well, fuck you then.
Dude, for anyone that listens to this, because even though I am sitting here like giving this advice on how like you shouldn't focus on that, this is coming from the guy that if I step out there and someone tells me something wrong about the set, I'm not gonna like react and say something bad, but guess what? That's just gonna sit in my head, dude. And it's like, I'm just being real, man. It does. It affects people. You You know what I mean? And it's normal, but yeah, man, not everyone's gonna like it, and that's okay, dude.
Okay.
It's okay. You know what I mean? And I understand that, but I'm fucking human, and shit still sucks sometimes. You know?
So, kind of speaking to the not the thick-skinnedness of that, but something. Hell yeah, DX, throw it up. Where's the chop? But something that was interesting to me is looking at your touring past.
Okay.
And I'm gonna focus on. I know it's one specific tour, but I think this tour and the next one I'm gonna mention really speak volumes to the question I'm gonna ask.
Okay.
So the Attila ICP tour.
I knew that was it.
Yeah, and then Warped Tour basically was one of the following tours from there, and I went to that tour, the Warped Tour that year. We traveled to the Hartford date.
Okay. Oh,
And
that was such a sick date.
It was from what I understand, it was actually probably one of the best dates of that
Definitely
tour.
one of the best dates. Hands down.
And I've talked about that date and my experience on that because a friend of mine was on the tour and I got to see the behind the scenes of everything and just really seeing a tour of that magnitude working, the inner workings of that tour, which is someone who books shows and so forth intermittently. Like, it was phenomenal just to gain that experience and see how well of an oiled machine, and just like, this is like the creme de la creme of like touring experiences, and this is what it takes to to be at that level. So with all that being said, like between that Attila ICP tour, and a lot of the bands that were on that Warped Tour, between like your Hatebreeds, your Acacia Strains, your Amirs, like a lot of the bands that were probably on, I think, on the stages that you were on.
Guar and stuff.
Yeah. And Silverstein and like all that, like a very wide array of bands that have been at it for a long fucking time. Same with Attila, same with ICP. But those are all bands that have been unapologetically them their whole fucking career. Whether it's against the grain, it goes with the grain, whatever the fuck it is. What did you learn from touring with those kind of people who are so unabashedly themselves?
That?
Okay.
Be your fucking self, dude. Honestly, man, it's just like I'll tell you what, man, through all the tours, through all the bullshit, like, dude, because, like, Sylar wasn't just a band that, like, was an idea and then just got put on. Like, nah, dude, we came from a local scene. We've played basements. We've been broke. I've stole shit from gas stations because I didn't have enough money to fucking eat. Like, dude, we've done that shit. Like,
oh, yeah.
This shit is real as fuck. We come from the bottom. And through it all, man, one thing I have learned and one thing I strongly push on people is that it's never worth it to not be yourself. Ever. Even if you feel like at that moment it's worth it, I promise you, a couple moments later.
Can I come in?
Sure.
Cool. Okay.
I promise you, a couple moments later, or whatever it is, years, whatever, you're not gonna feel the same. It's never worth it to not be yourself. That's one thing I stand with big time. And through those tours, yeah, ICP. I mean, like, even when the offer came in, I'll be honest.
So many people would actually look at what they're doing business-wise, I think, like I've always said, like, and we're doing this here in Michigan, and ICP is obviously from Michigan. Yeah. Something I've always fucking said is, if the rest of the music industry would take a glimpse at what ICP has created as a business,
oh, dude,
we wouldn't be in the problem we're in.
Let me tell you something.
They sell $100. Like, when I used to work at Hot Topic,
I worked at Hot Topic too.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And
I've seen it all.
Give me that $200 jersey, and you're like, okay, and they buy it, and you're like,
seen it all.
I can't believe
what?
that.
You know why? Because that artist
that
has
loyalty.
Stuck. The reason why these people appreciate these artists, though, is because these people feel like an outcast, and then all of a sudden they see an artist they love on stage that has stuck with that shit that whole time.
Yeah.
And that's why those bands last, dude.
Yeah.
It's because it's like I said earlier, man, it's just not worth it to not be yourself. And those people are themselves. And that part is human. It's real. You know what I'm saying? And I just stick with that, man. It's just like, that's just, I love that. You know what's crazy? When it comes out to our music, I've never heard anybody refer to it like that, unapologetically, like being you.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, that's who we are. It's just like, I honestly just would not be able to enjoy a set if I went out there and played songs that just weren't us. You know what I mean? And granted, we're not as loud as some bands that kind of pull the sound that we do. We're not like, you're good. We don't do all that stuff, but it's like, regardless, we still stick by what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like, we still stick by our vibe. And no one can deny that. It doesn't matter if you like our music or not. You can't deny that. We're not like the rest of these bands playing safe, and that's just the bottom line, you know?
So, I mean, something that was kind of interesting to me in looking back at your output. speaking to not playing it safe, I feel like your guys' output in. All right, so and I never know technically anymore like what constitutes as an EP versus a full length anymore because
Right.
I don't know if it's the length of the actual tracks or
You're good.
whatever. But so I mean, going from
Don't worry, I'm not gonna get triggered over anything. You're good.
I don't know, but you know how the internet.
No, I know how it is. Disclaimer: I don't get triggered over that. Shit. You're good.
But so the thing to me is that's interesting though is like going from like your first record and so forth and to where you are now. The thing that was like fucking intriguing to me was seeing a lot of people who want you to go back to that thing. And the hard part is I feel like yes, you still are those people, but at some point like I just kind of wonder like at what point are you going to kind of leave that old material kind of behind because it's not really representative of who you are.
Who we are now.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, this is the way I see it, man. It's like, so for instance, like we closed out our set tonight with Prescription Meditation. It's one of our first songs, right?
Yeah.
To me, I would feel like a massive hypocrite as an artist if we just fully went on a tour and we were just like, nah, we're not playing that shit anymore. Because you know what? I would feel the same way, and we're going to bring him up again, but I would feel the same way if, like, when Chester was still around, rest in peace, I went to a Linkin Park show and then all of a sudden they decided they didn't want to play anything off Hybrid Theory or Meteora. Like, I would hate that. You know what I mean? Like, I would, and to me, it's just like, it's weird to still be on that material sometimes, but.
Do you feel like it still represents who you guys are?
It represents a phase in our careers. It represents a time of our band. And to me, when it comes to like bands and artists, I just feel like the beauty of it is when like you grow with your fans. You know what I mean? How many times have you seen an artist start when they're like in their teens, and then you see them grow all the way to their way old?
Caleb is the perfect representation.
Caleb is a perfect representation.
Honestly,
that was a dude that had every single 14, 15-year-old scene kid as
when
a
he was 14 or 15,
and now he's in Beartooth, like with all the butt rock dads. I'm sorry, but if that's not fucking sick, I don't know what else is. You know what I mean? And to me, it's just like that's very important to grow with your fans. And like, I will never come at a fan for liking our old stuff better, man. Everyone's entitled to like their own thing, but you also have to understand that people grow and people are not, especially as an artist, man. You don't want to write the same, like at least I don't want to write the same record twice, dude. I don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, I don't know, man. Maybe for the next record after Seasons, maybe we decided that at that time we're feeling heavy. I don't know, man. So, it's just like.
Kind of speaking of, the fact that Seasons is getting ready to come out in the next month as of when we're doing this chat. The thing that's interesting to me though is like the volume of output. Because I mean, like you were a year between the first two records. You were 2 years between. Fuck, I'm terrible with fucking shit sometimes.
You good?
But from Help to the record before was 2 years, and then I think if my timeline's correct, you're about a year and a half ish between. But I mean, like you
Help and Seasons.
Yeah, but like you put out 4 records in 5 years. So like, are you one of those bands that just constantly is writing?
No, we're not because all right. This is the way I see it. We dropped an EP. A lot of people might, count that as a full record, but this is our 3rd official record, and actually, Help dropped in August 2016.
Right.
Seasons is dropping October 2018. So it's actually 2 full years, and honestly, I'm proud of that, man. Because if you pay attention to bands.
That's the touring cycle. That's the album cycle, I should say.
Yeah, but there's a lot of artists that unfortunately have to do a 1-year cycle. There's bands that tour for less than a year and then they're back in the studio. So I am very proud of having 2 years in between our last record and now. But it's not so much like I don't believe we're just an artist that's just gonna pump out records. But man, you're also in a position where like, dude, it's not 1995 anymore. It's not like it's just like it sucks, but it's the truth. It's like. You can't put out a record anymore that as an artist is really gonna last you, especially as a rock band, dude. Rock isn't what it used to be. That's just, I mean, like I'm not saying quality. I'm just saying like
the quantity.
Not quantity. It's just what it is. Dude.
Okay.
It's like rappers are new rock stars.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like tons of like not
Post
tons,
Malone
but
is putting out shit where I'm just like the fact that motherfucker came from this scene.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But then was like, he wasn't accepted in this scene, so he was like, well, fuck it, I'm going to go play over here.
But he still reps this scene.
Yes!
That motherfucker's the man.
Yes!
Yo, Matt Pops, Post Malone. He actually followed me on Twitter the other day, and I was like,
dude,
yeah,
all right, well,
this is the fucking
hell
dude.
yeah. Nothing
but my thing is, man, it's just like, it's about, I don't know, man, it just doesn't get looked at the way it used to.
No.
Man, unfortunately, this is the fucking truth. A lot of people might not know it, but sometimes as a band, you can afford to not write a record. you can afford your label won't let you do. That's just what it is, man. I'm sorry. I don't know if you knew that, but that's just what it is. Sometimes you write a record, and your label's like, "Hey, guess what? It's time for another one." You know what I mean? That's just what it is, dude.
So how was it going from Razor and Tie, which I mean basically sort of was absolved, went under whatever around the time I think you guys signed with Hopeless,
right?
So I mean, how is like because you can't not make the parallel between
right
where you were with Razor and Tie to what you've been doing since.
Yeah. I mean,
so did that give you sort of a not a creative license, but did that? Because it's a new start for you guys in that regard, did that make you kind of want to be like, well, fuck it, why not go in on all in on this new start?
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's crazy because it did feel like night and day. Going from one label to the other. I mean, honestly, I gotta give it to Razor and Tie. They did give us like freedom as far as like us wanting to write whatever we wanted, but as far as like in-house stuff, we're not there for a reason. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit here and bash anybody.
No, that's right.
Obviously, we're not there, so that says it all. And going on with the new team and the new label, it did inspire us, man. It's just like, dude, I feel like when you re-listen to like the first shit we wrote to hear this shit now, it's like, damn, these kids have grown. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, I just found out this morning that our song played during a Monday Night Football game. You know
a friend of mine's band also played during that
and it's
game.
Like, dude, that's just fucking nuts, dude. I'll tell you what, when I started my band, I would have never in a million years thought that would even be a thing. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't know, man. You just grow. Your mind changes. Sometimes you feel so attached to a certain thought or like belief with your music. And dude, the fact of the matter is just like people change, hearts change, seasons change. There's just change through it all.
Is that what the record name comes from?
Yeah. So basically, I lyrically I wrote the record about like the change, what the change as from being like an artist and being on the road and living this kind of lifestyle has made me feel. And it's just like my journey, you know what I mean? It's I didn't want to name the record Changes, you know what I mean? But it is about
For the
changes.
Fallen Dreams just was here last night doing their Changes.
Right.
Here.
I love For the Fallen. It's funny enough, man. For the Fallen Dreams was the first band to take us out on our first full US tour. Love those fucking dudes. Shout out to Jim. But yeah, man, it's just crazy. I don't know. I didn't want to just name it Changes because something that I stick with big time. It's like I feel like if we didn't have change as humans, our lives would be fully dull. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a good change, whether you got that raise or whether you got fired, guess what? There's another door that opens. And dude, if we didn't have that, think about how boring our lives would be. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? So like even through all, something that I realized with writing the record is that even in the negative aspects of, I don't know, that I felt through my life, I just feel like they were necessary. I just feel like the change that I went through, even the changes that made me feel very low, they were necessary. And that's what I wanted to point out on this record. I wanted to point out how, like, one minute we can wake up very fucking happy, but then guess what, man? Something can ruin your fucking day, and that's a change, and that's just what it is. We're humans. We're going to be happy. We're going to be angry. We're going to be sad. It's just what it is. And something that I'm very proud of with the record is that it illustrates a lot of different feelings that us as humans go through. So it's like, yeah, it might be weird for some people to hear a song like No Way that's like a ballad, like love song, to then hearing Shook. It's like, whoa.
Dude,
you know what I mean? But I love Shook. I love all the songs.
Shook literally does what the title says. I feel like it's like, I know this has probably been a sentiment that's probably been echoed to death.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know why, but when I hear that, maybe it's just because of my age. And like I said, like I came up in the new metal era when it was coming. And so when I hear it, I'm just like, this reminds me of like that growth that POD had from Fundamental Elements of South Town.
Fuck yeah, I'll
to
take
Satellite.
That. Hell yeah.
And even some of the stuff that you're singing about on the couple of tracks that are out, like it reminds me of like being, like the stuff on Satellite is culturally relevant to the shit we were going through as a society and as people at that time. And I feel like there's something that I've always loved about your music, whether it be from those first couple of records to now, is I feel like you've always said something that needed to be said. The difference is, though, is now maybe more people can understand the message.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
My man. Yes.
All right.
And that's and dude, to know that there's people out there that actually get a grasp of that makes me so happy, because that's the thing, man.
I think it's my age sometimes. I think though.
It might be.
I
It might
think
be,
the young
dude.
kids who are like pissed aren't 34, married, and like going through real life.
Real life, right? It's
Like-
a lot easier to like just drop those comments and drop your 2 cents when there's nothing else around
When you're
really
living with
stressing
9
you.
dudes in a 2-bedroom house.
Dude, yeah. But that is cool that you noticed that, man, because it's like that, and it's something that I'm stoked about because to me, I feel like a bigger audience can actually understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I think both of you.
Yeah, and I just think like lyric-wise, like lyrics are so important to an artist, a song, and music in general. And to me, it's just like I feel good to know that if your random average Joe pulled up a Sylar song, a current Sylar song at least, whether they agree with me or not, they can at least understand exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
And that helps me sleep at night with this new record.
Right. So kind of in wrapping up because I feel like you and I could just chew the fat for fucking
Oh,
forever.
we can't forever. Okay.
But it's one of those things. So, you know, as I've kind of said, being almost 34 now, in a couple, like, what is today? The 14th, in 6 days I'll be 34. So, as I listened to this music and new metal, it went through this phase of being cool and being kind of the voice of the underground to being mainstream, like with Follow the Leader and so forth, to then being a dirty fucking word that, like, if you were like, oh yeah, I like Korn, like, bro, that ain't cool. Or like, you know, to now sort of being this fringe, not quite underground thing, but like this resurgence that, you know, I talked about earlier. And so I kind of wanted to know, as someone who's being dubbed one of these bands that's kind of at the forefront of it, when did it kind of go from being a dirty word
I don't know.
to being kind of cool again? Because
you know what blows my mind? It's just like, correct me if I'm wrong, but when was the last time an actual metal rock band made the waves or noise that the new metal bands made? Like, when was the last time a band like Limp Bizkit or Linkin Park came around and actually blew the world like that? That was actually playing some hard fucking riffs and like some real shit.
So the last time, honestly,
I think that was the last era.
Honestly, so like, and that was something I was talking about earlier today. Is the weird thing that about that time frame and that scene is, so there was the precursor bands like Sepultura, a little bit toward the end of Sepultura into Soulfly, that started that, and like you're saying, with El Nino kind of fucking around with the bilingualness of it. Right. Then you had bands like Korn who were kind of fucking around with it and doing their thing to it. So then even having bands like Orgy and Limp Bizkit who kind of influenced or infused like industrial and like electronic stuff, and then rap and so on and so forth. And I think honestly, like when I was trying to pinpoint like where did the sound deviate and kind of become its own thing, is there's a band like Avenged Sevenfold who kind of came in and were doing
One
something.
of my favorite bands. Doing
something that was old, it was like the Iron Maidens and the Judas Priest with the twin, and even going back to like Thin Lizzy with like
Pantera. Pantera's like one of the, you know what I mean?
Pantera was probably like the band that was the precursor to nu metal, because like I would even say if you honestly go back and listen to a little bit of what is it? Not Far Beyond Driven, the Great Southern Trunkill, the one with the dude jumping through the fire. But there's very little nuances of like grind and stuff on it. Like Phil's trying to go more extreme when I feel like the band is kind of leaning a little more toward that kind of more bouncier groove than what they had been playing. And it's just weird to look back on all this eras of music. Like I said, nu metal blanketed so much, but then from it you almost got, you know, post-hardcore, and then you had like, you had the beginnings of metalcore. And like, you know, I was just having the conversation in this room yesterday with somebody where I was like, Michigan's kind of weird because like we have a hand in a lot of the genres that have come through, you know, between the MC5 and like the punk scene to Ted Nugent and like that 70s like kind of guitar driven rock, to the White Stripes with that lo-fi sound, to a band like For the Fallen Dreams, like within that early metalcore scene, to Still Remains and that kind of Gothenburg thing, to even a band like Black Dahlia Murder in our death metal scene and Battlecross Now. Like, we've had our hand in so much shit, so it's been very weird and advantageous at times to kind of see the change happen. Yeah. And always see like the sprinklings of the thing that came before it. And I don't know, it's just been really weird, like trying to think of, like I said, nu metal just encompasses so much that I feel like I said, like with you guys, it's like I hear everything, all the great records that, you know, the Follow the Leaders were like, that turned everything on its fucking head. And like I was gonna say, like if I was talking to any other dudes, it's like I love the fact that there's pitch shifters and whammies, the whammy pedals being used for melodies because that's what fucking Korn did on Follow the Leader. They use these things, these odd effects,
Right.
to get a different vibe than you could without them. And they were using them in a way that no one else was to bring out the art that they wanted to make. And I feel like when I listen to what you've been doing, you guys are fucking doing it. Like the Linkin Park sound, like there's a little bit of that I hear with like some of the electronics. Like
Yeah.
Mike Shinoda would bring it in, like, you know, DJ, whatever his face. Like you guys are incorporating so much that it's like it excites me as a music listener, as someone who likes to find something that brings me back. Going back to the vinyl thing, the thing I love about vinyl is it's an immersive experience. You
Yeah.
put it on, you listen to it, you flip it over. And the thing that I don't think a lot of people think about too with vinyl is it's like every time you flip, if it's 12 songs or whatever, and it's four LPs, or 2 LPs with 2 sides each, so basically 4 different sides, you're getting 3 different beginnings that you get to, like, here's
That's
the
a good way to
album
look at
opening.
it.
Here's the thing, like when you flip this over, here's what we want you to go into. And some bands, you know, like Misery Signals and a few of these other types of bands have done really good at, like, when it comes to vinyl. They Atreyu on The Curse. If you buy the vinyl, they have the 2 sides as they themed it. They took it a step further with the vinyl release, and I feel like something like that for you guys could be really fun, where you look at the music a completely different way than most, to where, like, maybe a vinyl release, you're like, all right, so, like, here's this, we're gonna title it this. Then you flip it over, now here's a new experience for you. Here's another concept we were running with. Maybe you weren't hip to it on the CD, but, like,
You can kind of do that with seasons. I mean, like you've mentioned all these things, but like a beauty with within our band is that, like, we never go into a song with, like, I don't know, we never go into a song like trying to leave anything out. You know, the reason why you still hear whammies or like beats or melodies or screams, whatever, is just because we don't block anything out before we go into a song. To us, if it's like,
can I cut you off for just a second? Because
Sure.
you just reminded me of something I also was thinking of today. I love the fact that on, like, the last 2 records, it feels like a record with the atmospheres that you're adding pre and post
yeah.
song, leading into itself.
Thank you, man. Well, the thing is, like, we don't really write. I don't know. We don't like write concept records, but when we are writing these records, I do think about it as a whole, which is a massive thing for me with Seasons, because, like, I like I said, man, I can understand why some kids don't dig, like, some of the sounds. I can understand why some kids, like, miss the screams and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is that we wrote a record, and I want people to really listen to the full thing, and then tell me what they think. You know what I mean? Whether it's good or bad, man, it is what it is. But to me, this project in specific, it has amazing songs in my opinion. But overall, it's just a really sweet thing as a whole. And I want people to actually listen to it from the back. And then if you hate it, maybe go back to it 2 weeks later. Maybe you'll feel different. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just like, we did what we vibed. You know what I mean? We went in there and we didn't play it safe. And I'm sorry, but I'm proud of that, because I told you, man, and I'm not afraid to say it, we're in a fucking scene that's boring as fuck. Everyone's playing it safe. Everyone's fucking afraid to say some shit. And we're fucking not, and I'm over it. I'm over everyone playing that safe card. That shit is corny. That shit is lame. And it's the reason why this scene doesn't just, like, go anywhere further, man. It's just, I just feel like everyone's so scared to do things. You know what I mean?
So, legitimately now, in wrapping up, I know I said that a couple of minutes ago, but we went on a tangent. But, you know, this record's getting ready to come out. In theory, you're probably going to be on at least a 1.5-year album touring cycle behind this. Where would you like to see this band go over this next year and a half, touring-wise? What are some bands that you think are, like, fucking flipping the scene on its head that you would, like, do we want to fuck with you? We want to be, like, in front of your fans. We want to, like,
I mean, dude, for starters, just even being on this tour is, like, fucking awesome, because we have a band like
this is one of the most, to me, like, my most anticipated tours because of what it offers. There's a little bit of something for everybody.
Right. Because to me, it's like, cool. We're like, so we're on a band with Beartooth. One of the bands that came from our scene, but it's like all of a sudden so big in the rock scene and in the radio scene, and they're like, you know, it's just a band that stands out. And you also have Knocked Loose, who's so big in the hardcore world. They're such a hot band, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I feel like we're in a perfect tour for us to cater to different types of people. If I was to get, like, if I could pick a spot or a band or whatever, it's just like, I you know, but the next year I would definitely, like, I feel like we really want to tour with bands like Papa Roach and, like,
I definitely can
Disturbed
hear
and stuff
that,
like
yeah.
that. You know what I mean? I mean, a big part of it is because just I'm a massive fanboy. Those are the kind of bands I grew up
So
with.
Jacoby follows you, and I was like, is there a potential?
Dude,
for
it's
that to
crazy.
happen?
It's crazy to even say this interview that that's like one of my boys. You know what I mean? Like we're cool. You know what I'm saying? Like we talk, and when I first went out, he loved my band. Trust me, that was like one of the most surreal moments for me because I told him straight up. I was like, dude, you don't understand. I was like, Jacoby, dog. You're telling me you love Sylar? You don't understand. I was like, dude, I used to think you were a fucking alien. Like, when I used to watch videos in, like, 98, 99, or whatever the time was, I was younger, and I was just so, like, deep and obsessed with music and bands, and to me, the singers, or, dude, anyone in the band, to me, they were just, like, not even just regular human beings. To me, it was just like, dude, you guys are, like, phenomenons, you know what I mean? And to talk to Jacoby and shit nowadays, it's like, it's just fucking crazy. It's cool, man. I'm like very grateful for stuff like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, when I was a kid, I looked at bands like that. You know what I mean? I was obsessed. I've just always loved the scene so much, and I love that you mentioned the whole thing with freedom around nu metal because that's what really brought me into it. What really brought me into it was the fact that it had hip hop in it. I didn't get into metal first. I grew up in Queens. I grew up with hip hop. My cousins, all they listened to was hip hop. My family, hip-hop. That's all I knew. And you know what? I'm watching WrestleMania 17, and then I hear My Way for the first time, Limp Bizkit.
Yep.
Lost my mind. I was just like, wait, what? There's a dude rapping, and there's like this aggressive like energy behind it, and that did it for me. And that just goes to show the beauty behind being like creative and mixing all these things together. It's just like beautiful, the kind of things you can create with it. You know what I mean? It's crazy to turn a kid that was just into hip-hop into this whole genre now, just because I heard a hint of hip hop in a rock song. You know what I mean? And that is the beauty of nu metal. It was a beauty to see so many different things like that. And with this record Seasons, even though you only heard 3 songs, there's a lot of shit in there. There's parts in that
Well, I think
record.
there's something to be said for the fact that the 3 songs you released are very close track listing wise to each other. I pay attention to weird shit like that too. Like you basically gave the meat of the album. Like
because the second half of the album is.
Don't think I didn't notice that.
Cool, I like that.
You didn't put the album opener, but you
right.
Oh yeah, I noticed.
And we wanted to release the album opener, but we did it for a certain reason.
I think that's going to be a statement piece.
Yeah. Oh no, I'll offer the statement piece. Just I just want everyone to listen to the full thing. That's where I'm at with it, man. I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of it. I think we really went above and beyond with it. I think we're breaking barriers. We mix a bunch of stuff that we like that a lot of people don't do, and I know a lot of people love it, and a lot of people maybe not, but that's where we're at with it,
So my last 2 questions, literally the last one will be the wrap-up question, but you mentioned wrestling, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I figure it's interesting to find that in doing this, a lot of band people are wrestling fans, unapologetically. Again, going back to that.
You good?
So if you could do a theme for somebody, current, doesn't have to be WWE, any promotion, who would you love to do a theme for?
I'm going to take this from a drummer Cody, Conor McGregor.
You think he's going wrestling?
Not wrestling, but I mean, you said anything, right?
Well, I meant like any promotion as far as like in the wrestling
on
world.
The wrestling world.
Like someone's theme music, they're coming out to this song. It's your Disturbed doing the glass shatters. It's your, DX, Are You Ready? It's your...
Okay.
I mean, fucking Code Orange got to do Aleister Black's thing at NXT TakeOver like, what, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
So
I was there in Brooklyn.
So, I mean, if you could do anyone's theme that they're going to come out to, and that's going to be their theme for presumably the next little while, who would you like to associate with?
That's a tough question because you know what, man? It's weird because, like, I was so much more into wrestling when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, now I still pay attention to it, but I'm not the fan I used to be. And that's what I was trying to get at. That when I was 10 and WrestleMania 17 came out, and I just remember a massive punchline was just like McMahon versus McMahon, because that was like when like the son and the father were like having a matchup. Right now, man, I wouldn't know, man. There's so many different wrestlers and so much stuff going on, and also with so many different events, but we'd love to just be involved in that world anyway, you know what I mean? I feel like our music does cater to like that kind of like aggression, and I feel like
I can definitely hear a song of yours potentially, the Even Shook, being like that bumper song that you hear before like
actually, I mean, I'm not gonna say what wrestler, but a wrestler actually did ask us to use one of our songs for a big wrestling event that just happened last weekend.
All in?
Yes. So a wrestler was gonna come out to that song.
Okay.
Some shit behind the scenes got fucked up, and it didn't happen.
That
but
sucks.
the fact that like something like NFL picked up our song, and then like we had wrestling asking us for a song. It feels good, man. It's a cool feeling because it's just shows that us following our guts and what we really like isn't a bad thing. You know what I mean?
And then last question, the record comes out on October 5th via Hopeless Records. Again, it's called Seasons. And this is where I'll have you plug your socials where people can follow you, follow the band, and then pick a song to end it out. Doesn't even have to be one of yours. I'll even throw that out there. It can just be whatever. Maybe if there's a song you're feeling, maybe it's something off of Mechanical Animals that's turned 20 years old today.
So for anyone that heard this entire interview, you know exactly how I feel. With that being said, I'm going to end it with Back to School with Deftones.
Ooh.
A jam. That band.
Cool Keith lyric even.
Yeah, exactly. So all other vibes they bring out, we could just relate to it big time, especially Back to School. It's a lot of like, it has a lot of the energy, vibe, and attitude that we're feeling right now as a band. And yeah, man, I'm excited. I can't wait for everyone to listen to it, especially Deftones. They're like a massive band we look up to, and it's gonna be a good time, man. I can't wait to hear what people think about the whole thing. You know what I mean? We gave everything into it, dude. I was like,
it shows so far from what I've heard. It shows.
It's exciting, man. I'm very excited. I just can't wait to see what people actually think.
Well, thank you very much. And where can everyone find you guys?
So you guys can find us anywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and all that stuff. Sylar NY. My personal is just my full name, Jayden Panesso. I know it's not easy to find, but if you probably look on this podcast, you'll probably have my name on there.
I will.
And then, yeah, man, please look us up. Sylar on YouTube, Sylar on Spotify, Apple Music, and just jam. Turn it up to 11. Tweet at us. We always respond back for the most part. But even if we don't, we always read every single tweet. So let us know how you feel.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, man.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time.
Of course,
and,
dude.
Enjoy the rest of the tour. Safe travels, man.
Fuck yeah, brother.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
So that was my chat with Jayden Panesso of Sylar. And, I kind of enjoyed having a longer chat with someone, as you heard me say right there in the beginning, after I fucked up his name, of course. Again, that's sort of the downfall of writing down questions, is I also have the other interviews I've done out as well. So when I went to look down and I saw Joey Gonzalez, I was thinking, oh, it's something, and I had just asked him how he pronounces his last name. So I'm looking down real quickly as I'm talking to him, and I see Joey, and I didn't think anything of it. And I was like, Joey Panesso. And I was like, wait a minute. And as I was saying, I was like, that's wrong. And then he's like, wait, what? And I was like, oh, fuck. So, yeah, I admitted in my fuck up right in the beginning of this episode. I kind of admitted it during when it happened, and I'm admitting it now. Yeah, I fucked up. I called him the wrong name. What about it?
Hey, it happens, man. When you're a big-time podcaster, like yourself, sometimes, these things happen. But, no, the first thing I thought whenever I listened to this was, man, I'll have what he's having. Because, yeah, you were really amped up for that one. But it was exciting because, like, you could tell he was, like, really getting on board, with it. Like, there was a lot of positive energy in this interview. And I really enjoyed just how unabashedly, like, we're going to talk about Limp Bizkit right now.
Yeah.
Or we're going to talk about how we love nu metal. And you know what? It's 2018 and we now live in a world where we're allowed to say stuff like that and it's totally fine. And honestly, it doesn't even matter if it's fine or not. Like, it's just unabashed love.
I think the thing for me, and this doesn't discredit my interview with Phil, it doesn't discredit the interview I did with Michael from Guar or anybody that I've talked to. I think the thing that was different about this interview for me is, I was sitting, I kind of pick up on other people's energy, and that's not to say anyone else, was dead or anything like that, but we also were in a room sitting basically almost knee to knee across from each other, like kind of leaning in, talking to each other. So I don't, like, at one point, I think you could literally hear him and I doing, like, a fist bump kind of thing, like, when we were talking about something. And, that's how close we were. We were really fucking close. Like, it's probably literally one of the most intimate conversations I've had with someone. And as you heard me say right away, like, I was like, you know what, fuck it. I think we got something going here. I'm just going to toss my notes to the side, and I'm just going to talk to you. And potentially at times, maybe that made me meander a little bit, but I think that made it more of a genuine conversation because I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna as I'm saying it, because I'm listening to what he's saying, not trying to think of my next question. I'm literally tackling things in the moment, and I think we kind of go into some interesting side tangents. I think we go down some interesting rabbit holes and all that kind of stuff. And I think we get more of an honest sense of who he is as an artist and who the band is as a whole and what we can expect from them on this new record, Seasons. I mean, God, I listened back to it earlier, like I said, just to mix the levels on it and kind of cut down on some of the background noise. But even when I was listening to it, I was like, God, this is just a fun chat. Like, it's long, it's an hour long, but I never really felt like it dragged at any given point.
No, I didn't think it dragged, and I like more organic conversations like that. That's kind of where I come from. Like with my background, is I'm not as good at doing the formal interviews. And we've had a string of 15 to 30 minute type interviews where it's like, those are good interviews. I'm not discrediting them, but you have to just try to get as much information as you can so compact and so quickly that sometimes it loses the natural art of conversation. And this was really refreshing in that regard, that we just kind of get to sit down and get into the head of an artist, instead of just being like, okay, well, when does your new album come out, or when does your new, like that. Like it didn't feel like a promotion interview as much as and even though it very much was, but that's good promotion where people are getting a real sense of the person.
Yeah.
And because you come away from the conversation like, dude, I think I'll check that new album out. It sounds like it's going to have some cool twists and turns for me.
Well, it's like I even said in the interview, and I've said over a shitload of these podcasts of, I feel like the day and age of oversaturation on the pre-rollout of a record, by the time a record comes out, if it's 2 or 3 songs, 4 or 5 songs out, and nothing's really catching me, it's like, I was interested in the record, but now that I've heard about half of it, I don't think I give a fuck about it now.
Well, even whenever you were talking to Greg from Audiotopsy, even he said, he's like, yeah, well, no, we're not putting the entire record up. Which is a lot of bands do that now. They throw everything they have out onto the table immediately, and it definitely kills the anticipation of something. Like, Zayo put out a split record, split 7-inch just the other day on Mind Over Matter Records, and
shout out to Austin.
I ordered it, and I can't wait for it to come in, and I haven't really listened to much off of it because I want that anticipation. I want that feeling of, oh man, what's this going to be? And I feel like a lot of bands lose that, like you were saying, John, it's like they just throw everything out there and there's not that anticipation of going to the store or running to, now in 2018, running to the mailbox,
running to iTunes.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I'm running to stream this thing immediately. That being said, though, I think Sylar really threw out the best. And again, I haven't heard the rest of the record yet, but they threw out really some of their best tracks to the point where even if the rest of the record is garbage, I'm still happy with those 3 tracks. Like, those are still going into my playlist. And again, you can't think that on a record that has those songs on it, the rest can't possibly be garbage,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this record dropping. And for those, who are maybe not Sylar fans, their new record, Seasons, comes out October 5th via Hopeless Records. Pre-orders for that are still up over at sylar.merchnow.com. If you don't know how to spell the band name, it'll be next to Jayden's name, Sylar, though, if you are listening this far and too lazy to look at the screen. But yeah, this record, I think it's really going to take where Help left off, and I think it's going to take them even further. Just in the 3 songs that they have, you can't help but already hear that. Like, take the best songs off of Help, and I think they've already eclipsed it, honestly.
Yeah, this is cool, and I'm pretty excited to hear it. I've been a pretty big fan of their stuff. It really, since Help was the first record I heard, and I actually went back, and I think that was part of my perception too, is hearing Help first. I went back a record and I was like, oh, this is cool, but it really isn't as good, and so, but there is something to be said though about listening to the discography of a band from beginning to end and getting it, in a short period of time and getting a perspective on it that maybe people that have been fans of the band for years may not necessarily pick up on. But like hearing those transitions happen, really quickly it's easy to, I think, to pick out like, oh, I could totally tell they were going to go in this direction listening to the last record, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm super excited about that. And just to put something else over real fast, shout out to the 2018 Atlanta Braves. We just clinched the division today, as of when we're recording this. Went from one of the worst teams last year to now winning a division, first place. Not saying we're going to win the World Series, but I'm pretty fucking pumped. It's been a long time since Atlanta's won a division, and man, so fucking excited. I didn't tell my wife this just because we're trying to save as much money as possible to go to this Louder Than Life festival, but I actually bought the division champs t-shirt that just came out today, right after they won. So if you're listening to this, I'm sorry I spent like $40 on a t-shirt.
Right.
But divisional championships don't come along very often. Hopefully this is the start of something new. If you're not a baseball fan, well, sorry, fuck you. I'm gonna pump something I fucking love, and the Atlanta Braves are a huge part of my life. I fucking love them, and it's good to see Atlanta back on top, and hoping for a good postseason run starting in the next week or so. And
doing a lot better than my Cardinals.
Hey, at least you guys have won a World Series or two in the last decade.
I mean, several.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And Michigan won today, too. Shout out to them. Blowing out Nebraska. I think it was 56-13. All of our backups got to play. Looked really impressive. And, man, the only thing that's going to make me feel even better is the Browns fucking won. I'm not the hugest Browns fan, but they got Jabril Peppers, a Michigan native, not Michigan native, but a Michigan alum. It's exciting. Sports are in full effect. The NBA season's just around the corner, and I'm all pumped on just sports. Got a huge sports boner going right now.
I can't relate to that, but you know what? As I said earlier in this podcast, whatever gets the job done for you, buddy. I'm such a casual sports fan. I'm that annoying guy that's like, what? We're in some kind of important playoff game? Yeah, man. I'm like totally on board, And then, if the big game gets flubbed, I'm like, yeah, I didn't think they'd do it. I didn't think they would. So you guys want to go to a show or something?
Yeah, but a lot of fun, very exciting times for me over here. So if you hear me talking about Braves baseball, if you follow me on Twitter and I pump Braves shit a lot the last couple of days. And, it's just going to be more of it. But speaking of social networks, if you would like to keep up with Jayden and Sylar, you can find Sylar on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram simply at SylarNY. If you would like to follow Jayden on Twitter and Instagram, it is Jayden Panesso. JaydenPanesso, or simply look at your screen, and that's how you spell his name. Again, the new record Seasons comes out October 5th via Hopeless Records. Pre-orders are still up over at sylar.merchnow.com. There is a sweet gold-looking vinyl variant on there that looks fucking great. I will probably pick one up here pretty soon. Dan might as well. If you would like to follow our partners at Moshpit Nation, you can find them at moshpitnation.com. Keep up with them on Facebook at Moshpit Nation West, capital M-I. Twitter and Instagram are simply Moshpit Nation. And if you would like to keep up with our show sponsor, The Bean Bastard, you can find them at thebeanbastard.com. The Bean Bastard on Facebook and Instagram. And if you would like to be a show sponsor too, reach out to us on email at johnsonTitlePod@gmail.com, and we can talk about sponsoring some episodes upcoming. We've got some good ones. And Dan, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DiscussMetalDan. You can find me on Facebook as Daniel Terry. Very creative name, I know. And you can find my other podcast, Discography Discussion, at DiscussMetal.com. And should you ever feel so inclined, you can also send me an email at DiscussMetalDan@gmail.com.
Is that where I send random music?
Pretty much.
Okay. I just want to know if I want to send you some random music, if I can just send it there.
Yeah, that's fine. You send me whatever random music you want to send me.
Awesome. And if you would like to keep up with all things the podcast, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube over at Johnson Title Podcast. Tweet at us at Johnson Title Pod, and email us at johnsontitlepod@gmail.com. Like I said, if you would like to be a show sponsor, email us, or I guess you can reach out on the Facebook message, and we will get back to you as quickly as possible and discuss that. And if you would like to support us monetarily, you can at patreon.com/Johnson Title Podcast, and Dan's going to tell you all about rating, reviewing, subscribing, the cheaper way to support this podcast.
It is the number one cheap way to support the podcast, but your lack of money goes so far. When you rate, review, and subscribe, we show up in search results easier. We are recommended to other people like yourself that are into this podcast. And it's really one of the greatest things you can do for a podcast is to rate, review, and subscribe. Reviewing is amazing because it gives us valuable feedback that we need to know. If there's something that we're doing that you don't like, let us know. Preferably, though, leave us a 5-star review and privately message us and let us know what we're doing wrong, and we'll jump in there and try to do our best for you.
And lastly, we are going to end this episode as we always do with a song, and very apt fitting. Jayden picked Deftones' Back to School, a very once polarizing song when the Deftones released it, but I think all these years later, it's just become one of their big hits that everyone enjoys. So enjoy this classic Deftones staple. And again, pick up Sylar's record Seasons, out again October 5th via Hopeless Records. And we will talk to you next time.